I was first.
I remember.
Okay, so what I would suggest is if we get started that everybody mutes their microphones and then we're going through the list, and you always will have at first an image that says the next comment is given by, and then you see the name. Then you unmute yourself and you do your comment. At the end, of course, we say whose photos you've been doing a comment on. And then we go on to the next one. It's a test. I hope it will be fun. I hope it will be interesting. I think there are quite a lot of very good and pretty photos and interesting photos. I would say, let's have fun. Let's enjoy ourselves with this one. If Rod lets me...
Can I just quickly interrupt? There's still some people not muted their mic.
Yeah, I haven't. I'll mute it when you start.
Okay. I will see if I can share screen. Rod, can you let me do the screen sharing, and then I'll see if...
I lost again the connection.
Okay, that should be all right.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Can you all see the title slide?
Yeah.
We're ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jean, Dave hasn't muted.
Yeah, I'm first up, so I haven't muted.
Okay. I don't make any noise, so I'm not muted.
No, so once again, we'll get started. And Dave, are you ready to do your critique, Dave?
Well, let's give it a go. So
Okay.
I got to say this. I got some interesting photos, and I don't know if this was deliberate or not, but I got photos that I could easily have taken myself. So yeah, thumbs up from me for the format and for whoever's photos they are. So yeah, let's get started with the first one, and I'll try and stick to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So this is definitely a picture that I would have loved to have taken. And it's really well spotted and really well captured. And there's lots of details about this that I really like. So for example, you can see there's some wall lights on the walls just in the spiral as it swirls up. But the wall lights have been mostly pretty well hidden behind railings. So whether that was deliberate or a very, very happy accident, it was exactly the right thing to do. So you can see there's a light in the bottom middle. There's a light on the middle on the left-hand side. So they are exactly positioned as can be. And then we're sort of spiraling up into the very center of the picture, and that's where the eye is drawn to. So well placed, well spotted, well captured. I think the issues that I have with this picture are in post-processing. And so there's a bit of noise in the picture, and I think that could easily have been done by just doing noise reduction on it. And also, I'm okay with the edges on the right and the left-hand side being slightly out of focus. But as you look up then towards the top, unsurprisingly, it gets a bit blurry and less sharp. And so just a little bit more aperture, a little bit smaller aperture would have helped with a better depth of field. But of course, then that gives you problems with the light that you've got in there. So I don't know any of the EXIF data on this. I don't know if it's taken on a tripod, but I think that would have been the way to do it if you could have got it set up. And then I think the biggest issue I have is the circle of daylight at the top or the ceiling or whatever it is, it just looks a bit unnatural. It looks a bit too darkened down for me, and there's a little halo around the outside. So I think that there's tried to be a reduction of highlights in that, but it's possibly gone a bit too far on that. But those are sort of fairly picky details. And I really like how this was spotted and captured in there. So great photo for me. Next one, please. So again, this is a really evocative picture and brought back a lot of memories for me of my trip to see the Northern Lights. I was reminded that the camera sensor is not as good as the human eye, except for capturing the Northern Lights. And so I remember that my pictures were seeing a grey swirl in the sky, but actually capturing it on film, and they get this beautiful green color coming up. So it looks like there was much more than that, and it looks like it was a really great Northern Lights experience. Again, you don't know as to how it was taken. I don't know how long the exposure was on this. If you sort of zoom in on the lights on the shore, then they're not quite sharp. So I don't know if there's a bit of camera motion. I don't know. It might have been taken off a boat. Maybe looks like it was taken on the shoreline, but minor criticisms for what's really quite, an evocative picture. Certainly brings back great memories for me, and actually gives a bit of the sense of the awe of the experience of seeing the Northern Lights. So, love it. Next one, please. Aha. So I thought, I know this is the, and this is a reminder that the first two photographs for me conveyed, a sense of, wonder and emotion, and, evoked some feelings in that. And there were more than just a capture of, here's just a place. Whereas I think we've now switched into capturing a place and a record as to what was there. So I think, certainly as a piece of art, it's less effective. And as a photograph, I think it's a bit less effective because it's just a straight capture. I think this is the Capitol building in Havana in Cuba. It's amazing. Oh, you can see the Cuban flag flying above the rotunda. So that's a bit of the giveaway. It's amazing that actually it was so quiet in front of it, and there's just one person. Actually, there's a very few number of people walking in front that I would have been tempted to have removed in Photoshop. And if you're going to have a clean picture, then you might as well have a clean picture. So it's nicely captured, but it's a fairly straight front on composition. So dead right for standing bang in the middle and getting it that way. The issue for me is that the verticals are falling. So the building looks like it's falling backwards a bit. And so easy to fix those verticals in Lightroom that it'd be well worth doing for that. And then the other issue is that, this was taken in broad daylight, somewhere around the middle of the day. I mean, I guess the shadows for the street are fairly long, but it's a fairly harsh light. It's a fairly bright light. It's a fairly uninteresting light, to be blunt. So, when you're a tourist in the city, you don't always get a chance to choose the time that you're there. But with some nicer light at sunrise or sunset, then it could have been a bit more evocative for this picture. But nicely captured. I would definitely have fixed the verticals, and I would have probably removed the people walking by in front of it. But, thanks for the memory of Havana. Next. So I really want to go here. Wherever this is, I'd like to be there. And it's definitely, I would have been poking my camera down, at this scene for sure. Lots of lovely colors again. And, I like that we've captured the reflections the boats, the colourful boats in the river. I think that I would have cropped this a little bit more. So on the left-hand side of the picture, then we have, you know, the last little bit of a building, and we've got a bit of the bridge, and then down there we've got some, you know, jetty or something on the bank of the river. And I think I would have tried to have got rid of more of that on the left-hand side, and particularly to have got rid of that last of the roof of the building in that, and just focused in on there. As with the previous picture, it's a, you know, for me, this is a record as to what you saw, you know, when you were there, and I'm sure it brings back great memories for you. But it's not, you know, it doesn't convey how you felt when you saw this scene in there. I'm sure that there were other options for composition and other versions of this scene that could have been taken. It may or may not have been possible to get a bit lower down and to bring out, to emphasize more the reflections of the boat, and whether, you know, there was more to be done with those very colorful boats that are there that really could have you know, brought a lot of drama and vivid colors into a picture. But all in all, a really nice scene. I'm very curious as to where it was, because I'd quite like to go there. So thank you for whoever's done those pictures. A really nice mix, very different styles, different places, different things. And definitely for me, the black and white spiral staircase was absolute classic, and I really wanted to have taken that picture. So thank you.
Okay, and those were Andy Funnell's pictures, and thank you, Dave, for the critique. So the next person to unmute is Emilio. Emilio, are you still with us? Because I can't see that.
Hey, hola.
Okay, let's begin.
Hello. Yes, sorry. Well, first, I am lost in the signals a few times. Well, anyway, I will ask Frank to read my comments. I can't make a detailed comment on the photos. That's why I asked a friend to help me with it, because I am not able to comment to do it. Anyway, sorry, I can see you now.
Yes, we can hear you, Emilio. You can just read your text. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I can't hear. Just a moment.
Just do your comment, Emilio. We can hear you.
I think he had it translated by Google Translate, and I'm not sure whether he's confident.
He sent them to me, but I have to open them to read them, and then it's either I can't read them when I'm showing the photo because I don't have two computers. I can split the screen in two. I'll try that. I don't know what. I'll do it like this, I think. Now I have to see. So, but you can read with me because it's on the screen, I suppose. This is a vibrant image that captures the essence of a bustling street scene during the evening. The combination of stillness and motion is intriguing, while the static elements like the clothing stalls and the orange sign providing a sense of place and permanence, while the blurred figures suggest the transient nature of the crowd. The low light conditions lend a moody atmosphere to the shot, and there's a nice balance between artificial and natural light. The first thing that strikes me is the use of slow shutter speed, which has beautifully captured the motion blur of the people moving through the frame. This technique adds a dynamic element to the image, suggesting the hustle and bustle of the street life. However, there's a bit of camera shake visible in the static elements, which suggests that the camera might not have been fully steady when the shot was taken. For future shots like this, consider using a tripod or finding a stable surface to rest the camera on to ensure sharpness in the areas that are meant to be stills. The composition is well thought through, while the streets leading the viewer's eye through the scene. The bright lit orange sign also serves as an effective anchor point in the top left, contrasting nicely with the darkening sky. The exposure is nicely managed, preserving detail in both the highlights of the signs and the shadow areas in the foreground. However, the image feels slightly underexposed overall, which can be a challenge in such lighting conditions. You might want to experiment with raising the ISO slightly or using a slightly wider aperture if possible to bring in more light without compromising too much on depth of field. In post-processing, consider adjusting the white balance to correct for the different color temperatures of the artificial light and the natural twilight. Also, playing with the shadows and highlights sliders can help bring out more detail in the darker and brighter areas of the photo. Color-wise, the image has a nice range, but the artificial lighting contrasts quite starkly with the natural light. You could selectively adjust the saturation and hue of specific colors to create a more harmonious balance or to make certain elements stand out more. Oh, I'm sorry. Right, so this is the second photo. Shall I read the text again? Because it's, I think that's the best. This is an energetic and dynamic photo that captures the essence of the motion beautifully. You've done a great job at panning with the cyclist, creating a sharp focus on the subject while the background blurs, suggesting speed and movement. The colors are vivid and contrast nicely, further enhancing the subject's presence. The choice to shoot at a slower shutter speed has paid off with the motion blur effect. The composition is also engaging, with the cyclist positioned to the left, which gives a sense of the path they have traveled and the space they are moving into. Firstly, your panning technique is commendable. You've managed to keep the cyclist sharp while blurring the background, which is not easy feature. This technique really conveys the speed and acceleration of the ride. However, we can fine-tune a few aspects to elevate this image even further. Upon closer inspection, it appears that the cyclist is almost too sharp, which should suggest that the shutter speed might have been just a touch too fast to convey the desired sense of motion in the subject itself. A slightly slower shutter speed would allow for a hint of motion blur on the cyclist as well, which can create an even more dynamic image. Additionally, while the colors are striking, considering the time of day and lighting conditions could amplify this further. Shooting during the golden hour, for instance, would cast a warm glow and create longer shadows, enhancing the three-dimensional feel of the photograph. If this shot was taken midday, experimenting with a circular polarization filter would also help to manage reflections and enhance the sky's color, making the subject pop even more. As for composition, the rule of thirds is utilized well here, while the cyclist positioned towards one side. However, it might be worth experimenting with giving the subject even more space to move into on the right-hand side. This can often intensify the feeling of movement within the frame. Maybe I'll open the photo in full. And I'll go back to the first one so you can see that one again. And this is the third photo. Okay, and now I'll open the third text.
Frank, I'd suggest you just keep the photo on large and then just read the text.
But I have to open the text to read it. That's the problem. I don't have two computers. Oh, and now I've lost it. You've captured the very intriguing scene here. The composition is strong, with the road leading the viewer's eye through the image and the subject positioned nicely in the frame. The warm tones create a sense of the environment's heat, and there's a good balance between light and shadow, highlighting the texture of the road and the load that the individuals are transporting. The choice of a shallow depth of field has effectively isolated your subjects from the background, keeping the focus on them and the card. However, the foreground is a bit soft, which might be due to the aperture settings of the focus point. If you were aiming to capture more detail in the foreground, stopping down the aperture slightly might have been beneficial, providing you could still maintain a fast enough shutter speed to prevent motion blur. Firstly, the emotional impact of this image is quite strong. The subject's endeavor is palpable, and you've captured this moment well. Your timing is good, capturing the stride of the figure in motion, which adds to a sense of movement within the image. Regarding technical aspects, your focus seems to be on the subject, which is great for storytelling. However, it appears that the very front of the card is slightly out of focus. This might be due to the shallow depth of field. If you were shooting wide open, consider stopping down to around an f5.6 or even f8 to extend the depth of field, which would keep more of the card in sharp focus. This would still blur the background enough to keep the emphasis on your subject. Exposure-wise, you've handled the scene well, preserving details in both the highlights and shadows. However, there seems to be a bit of overexposure on the back of the individual's shirt, which draws the eyes away from the face. You could correct this in post-processing by bringing down the highlights slightly or using a gradient filter to selectively adjust the exposure. And now I have to go back because I've I'll first show the photo. And then I'll go back to This is a powerful portrait with a strong emotional impact. The monochrome treatment enhances the texture and character in the man's face, and the play of light and shadow adds depth to the image. The angle at which the photo is taken creates an interesting composition, drawing attention to the man's expression. The choice of a high contrast black and white edit is effective in dramatizing the scene, fitting well with the subject's intense gaze and the environment he's in. Excuse me. The shadows on the wall complement the subject and help frame the scene without distracting from the main focus, which is the man's face. Absolutely. Let's dive a little deeper. The emotion in this portrait is palpable, which speaks volumes about the connection between the photographer and the subject. The wariness and resilience etched on the man's face are captured with such finesse that as a viewer we can't help but feel moved by his story, whatever it may be. The lighting here plays a pivotal role in adding to the emotional weight of the portrait. The side lighting sculpts the subject's face, emphasizing the textures and contours, which in turn highlights his life experiences. The contrast is spot on, allowing for the rugged detail to come forward while still maintaining a softness around the eyes, the windows to the soul, as they say. One thing to consider, perhaps, is the catchlight in the eye. While there is a hint of it, a slightly brighter catchlight could bring even more life into his gaze, enhancing the emotional draw even further. Regarding the monochrome treatment, it strips away the distraction of color, which can sometimes dilute the impact of such an expressive portrait. Here, the choice is justified and well executed. The tonal range from the deepest blacks to the brightest whites, I suppose that is. Okay, I'll go back to...
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank
Sorry,
you.
I can't hear sometimes you.
Yeah, so I've read
Sorry,
the
I will
text,
explain.
and so I hope that, well, everyone has heard it. So,
Sorry.
Emilio, do you think you know who made the photos?
Sorry, I will. Yes, please. I think. Sorry. I don't know.
Yes, you don't know? Okay, well, these were Daniel's photos. So thank you, Emilio, for your text, and thank you, Daniel, for the great photos.
Okay.
And
Anyway, sorry. I will explain later. I will explain later who helped me to write the text. Okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, and the next person to do a critique is Gary Spicer. So Gary, please unmute if you're ready.
I'm here. Off you go.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, first of all, I have to say that I'm very jealous of the person with the drone, which I assume was used in the photographs that we're about to see. The first two originally were quite confusing, and I thought perhaps I'd been sent two of the same picture. However, the actual photograph is intriguing because I'm seeing this as possibly a set, although we weren't told the actual name of the set of photographs, but I can see a mixture of the sea above coming into a shoreline. And the only reason I say it was taken aerially because I think down the bottom there's been some merging, some post-production of the photographs. So as a set of abstract photographs of the sea and the beach, they're very good. Technically, I'm not too professional enough to quote about exact details, but certainly on zooming in to take a closer look, there is quite a bit of loss of clarity, of sharpness of the waves, the crests of the wave. Likewise, on the different color sands, the tones are fantastic. So if we can go to the next picture, please. Here, I see that in post-production, there's been some merging. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner, that appears in the first picture. So I guess the person taking these has been playing about with post-production on abstract photographs, and that is fantastic. And something after certainly some of the pictures we've seen over the last few weeks, I'd like to learn more about post-production use of various software. So if there were a theme, I guess beach or water. So that's what I got from these photographs. Color-wise, I think because it's been, as I would say, produced after the photograph was taken, I'm not going to comment on that because the author of the photograph has obviously decided that they're going to use a post-production rather than a photograph of a beach taken at a certain time. So as abstract, yeah, I like those. But technically, I can't really comment because I don't know enough about the post-production techniques to enhance the photograph. But I can see, I hope what's happened is that aerial photographs have been used to make an abstract set of pictures. And the next one. Okay, there's this one. This actually is my favorite picture from the 4, and you'll see why. I like the idea of close photography, and I like the way this has been done. I know it's been taken and then it's been flipped upside down, which is brilliant. Obviously taken on a nice, possibly glass table. The glass there, the reflection is brilliant. And then I think some color enhancement has been put in to change the color of the wine, which is great. And I noticed then in the sunglasses, there's also this blue hue. So the two colors, the gold and the blue, for me works very well. The glass is beautifully sharp. The sunglasses, not so much. So again, in post-production, there must be a way of possibly enhancing that, which again, technique-wise, I'd love to learn. But for me, this is a great photograph, and it doesn't look so good flipped the correct way up. And then the final picture. This, first of all, this was baffling, first of all. Again, I saw instantly 2, possibly 3 people in a jacuzzi. Then I thought perhaps it was the jacuzzi near a mirror, so that the person we're looking at straight ahead was reflected in the mirror. And it's an intriguing photograph. There's a contrast-wise with again, I think post-production has been used possibly to mix, and I might be wrong, but the light coming in from the left is very good and highlights, but I still think the whites are not as sharp as they could have been. And some of the bodywork, that's the wrong correct expression, but the shoulder and the neckline of the person sitting facing the camera possibly seems distorted. And I don't know whether that's been done in post-production purposely, I'm unsure. But for me, the photograph is well seen, but I think loses effect because of the sharpness. And again, that's something possibly that we could pick up with in the future, perhaps with someone saying, this is how you enhance this take a picture. Other than that, cleverly seen, and I'm intrigued by it. And really, my professionalism on photography isn't enough to say it should have been done like this, because I think they're abstract pictures. So a theme running throughout, possibly just liquids, but other than that, they were a good set of pictures.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Do you have any idea whose photos you were sent?
Two people came to mind, yourself and Ankel, but apart from that, I'm not too sure.
Well,
it was Ankel.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And thank you for the photos. So next to do the critique is Trevor. Okay, are you still online, Trevor?
I'm here and I'm unmuted. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, this first image has got truly gorgeous lighting on it that just brings the colours to life. Most plant photography is done in subdued lighting or shade to bring out the fine petal detail and the leaf structure. But this isn't about a record or a plant catalogue or a gardening magazine. This is about using the plant and the flowers as a statement of art, and it does it extremely well. By having backlighting on the flowers, you've got extra vibrancy, and you can see through the flowers and the bits of shadow on some of the flowers, and it really brings it to life. And it's a very striking bit of lighting and a very photogenic, unspoilt head of florets. So it's a very nicely seen, nicely composed, and very nicely lit. For me, the highlight at the top right where you've got a bit of another flower coming in and some very high burnt out leaf. Yes, that's it, Frank. That I find distracting. It pulls my eye away from where I want to be looking. And with the photograph as it is, I would simply clone that out. The other highlights are less distracting, but what I would have been tempted to have done at the time of taking this photograph is, if it's in a garden where you've got time, you can put the camera on the tripod and just simply pull those distracting leaves and flowers out of the way from the background. Alternatively, you could have used a polarizing filter, and that's something that I think Emilio mentioned in his comments. That would have reduced the scattered light and the reflected light and dulled down the shiny surfaces of the leaves, and probably provided even more punch and colour to the flowers. But overall, very nice picture indeed. Next one, please. This is a lesson in absolute perfect timing and good luck as well with the reflection of the segment of the sun on the horizon. The sun moves its own diameter every minute. So this particular moment where the disk of the sun is just touching its refracted segment image below it lasts for no more than about 1 second. So the timing for this is absolutely spot on. Compositionally, it's great. The other thing that I think is to be commended on this picture is how the highlights have been managed. So often you'll get a picture like this where the highlights are burnt out, and the answer to that is, well, we'll slide the slider in Adobe Camera Raw, which you get to through Lightroom or Photoshop, down as far as it will go to give you detail in the highlights. Whilst that's a good thing, it often produces lots of artifacts, and you will end up with darker areas, overly dark areas, in the highlights around the actual main burnt out area. This hasn't got any of those problems. The management of the highlights on this one is perfect and really well done. So if you've put a bit of time into managing those highlights, it's paid off. Compositionally, I think it's great. And I really like this picture. Very well seen, very well captured, very well processed. Well done. Next one. Now, this is an image I think we've had before in one of our challenges. If not, it's almost identical to one that has been submitted to a previous monthly challenge. It's star trails. It's a long exposure, using the building at the bottom right as a foil for the star trails. You've positioned the building very well in that the trails all seem to orbit the focal point of that building, the point at which the windows are leading you towards. So I think in terms of composition, this is spot on. The trails are very nice. They're not overly burnt out. You've got lots of detail, and you've got some colour, although mostly blue, in the trails. But you do have a little bit of star colour in there. The thing for me that I find a little problematic is the building is totally burnt out. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of detail in that white wall. And in particular, I would like to see the angles from the corners where one face of the wall swaps to a different face. At the moment, it is just a single white sheet. So with a little bit less exposure on the walls, you will actually be able to see a little bit more of the building shape and structure. But apart from that, it's a very nice and brave composition. And overall, I like it. Next one. Now, this is something different. I don't think there's any of us in Spain that hasn't been out and photographed the splendid almond blossom. And I bet there's very, very few of us that's actually done it in monochrome. I certainly haven't. So really commend the author for trying something different with this. And yes, it's worked. It's created a different image. And you know it's almond blossom, just the same, even though you can't see the pink or white. Overall, I think I do prefer colour images because I just love the pinks of the blossom against the blues of the sky. But this is a different statement. And this is probably a little more artistic than the sorts of normal pictures that we take. Compositionally, I would have liked the camera to have been tilted upwards a little bit more. The bottom 10% of this image is just high contrast scrub and does very little for me. Whereas the top bit, unfortunately, the nearest almond is cropped off. And I think I would like to see the top of that nearest almond. So just by tilting the camera up ever so slightly, I think you would have had a stronger image. I do think that the foreground is a little bit over contrast. I like the contrast in the trees, the blackness of the trunks and the whiteness of the petals, but I find the foreground just a little bit too heavy and distracting. So nicely done. Like the black and white treatment, that's a courageous thing to do. Just tilted slightly upwards would have made it a really strong shot. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Any idea whose photos these were?
Yes, because I was privy to the preset of images in the compilation, exactly, yeah. So I do know who they are.
Okay, so those were Dave Roundtree's photos. Thank you, Dave Roundtree. And I think the next person to unmute is Janet, please. Happy birthday, Janet.
And happy birthday to Jeff as well.
Thank you. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so when I first opened my pictures on my phone, this to me looked all blurred and I thought, what is this image? But now I've got it on the big screen. You can see that across the middle, there is the sharp bit. So it's got a narrow depth of field, but you've got a sharp bit across the middle. And I like the leaf on the left-hand side because that's nice and sharp and gives you some colour to the picture. I don't know enough about photography to know what's caused these white circles at the bottom. And possibly they're a bit distracting. But I do like the trees and the buildings, and I think that there is a lot of texture in there, and that's certainly enough that you can see what they are, even though they are blurred. So I think it's a well-spotted image, and having looked at it for a while, I do actually like this one. But it's, I don't know, it's an odd image, I think, but I do like it, and I think it does work. Possibly getting down a bit lower might have reduced these white circles in the bottom and improved the image, but on the whole, I like that one. Next, Frank. He's a lovely chap and nicely caught, having just taken off. And the lighting, I think, on this is very good because your eye is drawn into the owl's eye and the lovely yellow eye in the middle. He's nice and sharp, most in the middle. The left wingtip is slightly blurred, but the bit you're looking at is his body, and I think that is nicely sharp. A bit distracted by the top right-hand corner. I would have liked to have had the grass all the way through and maybe darken down the grass a bit because he's quite dark himself. And then the final thing on this one was I would have liked a bit more space on the right-hand side for him to fly into. I feel it's a bit too cropped because it's a nature shot, but you haven't got, I don't know, space for him to fly into. Thank you. Next. Another nature shot here with a, I don't know, my moths or my butterflies, but his lovely sharp body. And so it's a nice nature shot and sharp. The stem, though, is slightly bigger than he is, so that is a bit distracting. I turned it through 90 degrees so that the stem was horizontal and the moth was on it, and I felt that was a more pleasing image on the eye. Alternatively, this way round, I think if the white on the right-hand side had been cropped out, because that is distracting, and part of the stem, then you get a nicer close-up of the moth, and I think that worked better for me. But the technique on all these, I think, is very good with these sharp pictures, so good. And the last one, which is completely different to the rest. As you know, I don't tend to do people photography, but this one I think is a lovely picture. Again, the face around the eyes is pin sharp, and so it's nicely done, nicely posed. I think because it's white, you've got the dress that's blown out, but that's, to me, doesn't bother me because you're not looking at the top, you're looking at the woman's face. So I think that is nice. The only criticism I have is that the ear is slightly blurred, and also the diamonds on the earrings have been blown out, so you can't see the diamonds nicely. But the lighting is good, and you can sort of see her eye and the expression. So nice photograph. I think I've done my 5 minutes. Thank you, Frank.
Any idea whose photos they are?
No, I haven't. I haven't got a clue because they're quite different.
They are. Okay, those were Kathy's. Very well
Kathy.
done, Kathy. And thank you very, very much, Janet.
Lovely, Kathy. Well done.
Okay, and next up to do the critique is Sarah. Are you ready, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm going to be the shortest critiquer in the session for sure. I'm not very good at this with my glasses on. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Right, so I'm not very good on these sort of architectural kind of things. I think the composition is great. Oh, I know, I'm reading the wrong one. Hold on. Oh, God, I thought I was doing the one with the staircase first. Okay, it must be this one. Yeah, okay. So for this, I would have tweaked the contrast a bit more, and I would have changed it I would have desaturated it and changed it to black and white or desaturated. I'd have done it like that. Okay. But I'm sure for those of you who like this kind of architectural thing, it's probably great as it is. Next one, please. Okay, this one. Okay, in this one, I would have left it, I wouldn't have changed it into black and white. I would have left it as it was. I think the composition's good. I would probably have cropped a little bit off the bottom. I think it's not necessary to have that wall thing at the bottom. I would have tweaked the contrast, and I would have tweaked the black point. Next, please. This one I wasn't sure about. This one obviously I would leave in colour because it's a nice bright yellow, and I would have tweaked the contrast again. I think the textures are really good, and I would have cropped off a bit of the white side, the right side. Next, please. Okay, this was the one I started doing at the beginning. I'm not sure about this one. I'm not sure about the composition. I would have removed the person. I think she's distracting. I probably would have changed it to black and white, and I would have tweaked the contrast and the black point. So there are my very simple comments. But they're all great. I think probably the yellow one was the best one on the beach.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, for
for a very brief critique. And I don't know whose they are.
Okay, well, they were Jean's.
Jean's. Jean. Okay.
No,
thanks, Jean. Great. So sorry for my pathetic critique. But I don't edit. I just edit on my phone. So I do a lot of tweaking on the blacks and the contrast.
Okay. No, it's interesting, I think, to hear other people than what we're used to do a comment, to hear what other people's perspectives are on the photo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We will all learn from this, I'm sure. And Brian Grinham, please, can you unmute for the next critique, please?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Jolly good. Okay, first picture, please. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that is Marine Bay d'Ang, which is a series of modern buildings between Cannes and Nice. The curves on this building are absolutely beautiful. There's a series of sweeping curves. What disturbs me slightly about this picture, though, is that I felt the tree on the left is too close to the building. To me, it overpowers. The white against the blue sky is probably a classic view of these buildings. So what I would have done when taking the picture is to have taken a couple steps to the right in order to move the tree away. And if you want it just on the edge of the picture, it doesn't interfere with the building itself. The other bit that interferes slightly is the bottom with again, a lot of foliage, a rather ugly light. And if I'd have moved to the right, I would have then used a longer focal length, say about 100 millimeters, so you crop it whilst you're taking the photograph itself. Given the picture as it is, I would probably remove the tree on the left in total and just put blue in, and then crop to the first floor of the building to give a clean white on blue type of photograph. But I do like the building, and I think it's taken from a very interesting space. Okay, next one, if I may. Right. I'll give you the non-Latin name because I can't pronounce the Latin one. I think this is a crested organ pipe, cactus, obviously, or sometimes called a Mexico organ pipe. I love the colours and the lighting, and even a bit of the shadow on there from other plants increases the dramatic effect. The wide aperture used on this 4.5 has thrown the background nicely out of focus. But unfortunately, if we look at the main role of the cactus, the focal length is on the base, the accurate focus. It's pin sharp at the base of that unit, but the top is out of focus. So therefore, what I think should have happened is maybe increase the aperture a bit, or opening it up closing it 1 or 2 stops, so that the top comes into focus, and that would also bring the horizontal bit of the cactus into focus as well. The focal point should be not the base of that unit, the globe, but the base of the leaves at the top, if you call them leaves. I also find the picture slightly overcropped. The top of the plant is close to the top of the frame. There's no room for the plant to grow into. And I would have concentrated more just on the top circular bit and give it more space above. We don't know what is happening to the left-hand end of the cactus. And maybe not having it there would be even better. But I do love the colours. Next one, please. To me, a lovely shot of late afternoon, or could be reasonably early morning. There is sufficient cloud cover to prevent too much glare from the sun. Although some people, probably not me, would reduce the highlighted areas, which does in fact give a more dramatic effect on the cloud. In addition, there is to the sort of west and up, to the left and up a bit from the sun, there's a strip of rainbow, which I think is caused by the lens, and I would have cropped that out. The reflection on the sea is beautiful. The clouds are good, but to my mind, there's far too much of the boats in the bottom. And the bit I like about the boats is you get the occasional reflection, which is quite pretty. But to me, it's a very heavy, dark space. And I would crop this picture to just include the curved row of boats and maybe one of those shorter horizontal row. I would have taken out the big boat on the right-hand side and cropped to that. But I love the way the sun is sat in the first third of the picture. Very attractive. Next shot, please. You save your best to last, don't you? I love this picture. The atmosphere is terrific, although I can't decide whether it's a couple fighting or breakdancing. I think it's probably the latter. The grainy effect from an ISO of 3200 is wonderful. I would have liked perhaps a bit less movement on the girl's face, but it's you're looking here, I think, at Mission Impossible. You get a nice blurred movement in her arm, but to try and make the face sharper, you're fighting against the issue of ISO setting, shutter speed and aperture. And where we are, we've got a shutter speed of 1/25. But to me, the movement is interesting anyway. I love the lighting from the top, which is hitting on the cigarette smoke and the 2 contestants. To me, I possibly might crop out the one person on the far right-hand side of the picture, but the crowd effect, they're wonderful. I have to say, I would have been proud to have taken this picture. although I probably wouldn't have taken it because I'd have been spending so long adjusting the aperture and the ISO setting that by the time I would be ready, the dancers would have gone, the smoker would have finished his cigarette, and everybody would have gone home. But no, a lovely picture, thank you. And that's my fault.
Thank you. Do you want to guess whose photos they were, or?
I'm afraid, Frank, I haven't a clue.
Okay. Those were Marlene's
Ah.
photos. Thank you, Marlene and Brian. And so it's time for Angel. Angel, can you unmute, please?
Okay, now I'm okay.
Okay, here we go, Angel.
Okay, to me, the whole set is abstract. I'm not sure if everybody agrees with that, but that's what I think. This one I like. It's the composition. It's makes triangles. One on the right, up above from left to right, and then the metal going from the left down to the corner, to the right corner. And the metal, the two metals from the wheelbarrow box to the wheel. So I like that. It is, of course, a wheelbarrow laying on the ground. And you can see that it's abandoned, and it has remains of cement mixed. The colors, I think, are okay. The green, the yellows, the ground brown, and I don't know what's up on the right upper part of the image. I'm not sure what it is, but it's sort of a gray green. So that's something. And I think it's interesting how the composition was taken. So I like that. Next one, please. This one, yeah, again, to me, it's very abstract. I like the colors, the pink and blue. I think I'm not certain what it is, if it's a mirror or an upside down bowl or something like that. But yeah, there is a blurred, the reflection in the circle that it's right in the center of the image. And I can see, I don't know if it's a face around, but I think it works. I think I like it. Next one, please. This one again, it's also like a circle around it, and black and white reflections. I think it's there is a man in the center of the image, standing with the back. In the background, it's like a door where the light comes in, and also from the left with a counter, it looks to me. And I like it also. Next. Oh, this one, it's I think it's the Princess Anne, probably the day of Queen Elizabeth funeral. I think it's the church. You can see the people in the upper left and the center. And on the Anne, Princess Anne is wearing a dress, I mean, a uniform. And I think it was in Westminster, probably. I like also on the left down corner, you can see a soldier with uniforms they wear. And yes, I like it. It's nicely
Okay. Thank you, Angel. I
Thank
think
you.
you guessed whose photos they were.
I'm not sure whose photos are these. Okay, Alfred, yeah. I thought about it.
Okay, thank you. And next up is Rachel.
Hello.
Hello, good morning or mid of the
Good
night for
morning.
you.
I've just moved into the bedroom to do this bit because I have a
Ah.
neighbour who might not appreciate hearing a critique at 4 o'clock in the morning, and this room's a bit quieter. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I could not have asked for a better set of pictures to critique than these. They are right up my street. It's street photography in a foreign country, so that ticks every box. I have an idea where the country is and who the photographer might be, but I'll save that until the end. So starting with this one, it's lovely. They work as kind of a set, these 4 photos. They're all in the same country. They all focus on people, and they all have these lovely warm colors and this kind of, it's what you want to call it, native walling in the background. This one, I'm not sure if it's candid or if it's been set up. It looks like it's been set up, not sure. But either way, it works really well. The composition is great with the girl leaning against the pillar. If Frank or whoever is in control could zoom in just a tiny bit onto the girl.
Right.
And lose a bit of, that's it, more like that. I spent a long time doing this with the photo and thinking, do I want it cropped? So it focuses a lot more on her and emphasizes her more. Because the lighting on her is beautiful. The facial expression is beautiful. And she is so strong cropped in like that. However, if you do that, you lose the lovely architecture surrounding her, which is part of the shot. And the photographer's obviously chosen to include it. So I wasn't sure, crop it, don't crop it, don't crop it. And eventually I decided, hey, just do 2 versions of the same image, one cropped and one with everything in it, because it does work beautifully. And she's a lovely subject. If it's candid, very well spotted. If it's set up, very well handled. Okay, next. This is a fun one. When I first saw this, I thought, no, mobile phones. Anybody who knows me knows that mobile phones are banned from my shots. But here, they are the shot. So you have permission. This is an example of mobile phones working really well in a shot. This one I would definitely crop to get rid of the woman. She's not really doing much and she just looks a bit overly touristy, so she's a bit distracting. So if you get rid of her immediately and do any work to remove the bits of her shadow that remain and just focus on the 3 boys, you've got a wonderfully strong image, again with the lovely colours. I think it's obviously taken from maybe a balcony or an upper level of a plaza or something, or a window. It works. I spent a while looking at this and thinking, does that angle work? I kind of want to come behind the boys and see what it is that they're photographing. And then decided, No, it works really well. And it's good to leave something up to the imagination. What is it that they've seen? I don't think it's a building because they're kind of a bit too young to be impressed by that. So is it some kind of artifact? Is it an animal? What is it that they're photographing? I'm intrigued. But I think it's a lovely, fun shot. But yeah, definitely make the focus just the three of them. And sorry, lady, on your holiday, but you need to go. Next one. This is my favorite one of the set, mostly because of the colors and the clothing that she's wearing. I think it's absolutely beautiful. The photographers lowered the angle of the camera a bit, which is exactly the right thing to do. If she was being taken from standing eye level, it wouldn't be such a strong shot. It would be a bit wishy-washy and you'd lose something. But the photographer has either shot from waist height or has themselves drop down to a knee or something to get that straight on angle, which works really well. And it's a lovely composition again. The one problem, and it is a shame, is that she's ever so slightly, she's not quite sharp. When you're doing street photography is a very forgiving genre. You can get away with a little bit of blurring, you can get away with a bit of movement, it generally doesn't matter. But this one's more of a portrait. So the fact that her face isn't quite sharp is a bit of a shame. Having said that, it happens to me all the time and it can be quite easily fixed in Lightroom. What I would usually do is use the radial filter just on the face, sharpen that up, and then use the brush tool just to sharpen the features a little bit more. Don't over sharpen it or it looks weird, but you can just sharpen it a little bit that it's not so noticeable. So you could try that. And the other thing I would do, the little bits that are behind her, I don't know if it's a metal cup or part of a machine or something, I would just clone that out. So it's just the wall and the room behind her. And the same with the little patch of white in the foreground towards the left. Just darken that down or whatever. But she's a beautiful subject. All of the subjects in these photos are extremely well seen. This one, I get the feeling that the reason for the little bit of out of focusedness is that it was taken from a distance with a long lens. Street photography can be intimidating. And it also varies from culture to culture. If you go somewhere like China, they don't care. You can just stick your camera in somebody's face and they're not going to say anything. Some other countries, for example, if you try and do street photography in Morocco, it's almost impossible because they will cover their face when they see you. So you need to get cunning. And that often means doing it from a distance with a long lens, which I think is what's happened here, or finding different discrete vantage points like the one of the boys, where they had no idea the photographer was there because it's done from above, if that makes sense. But it's a lovely image. And I think the clothing here starts to give hints of what this country might be. And also wanted to point out with the 4 images, the way that the colors enhance where in the world it could be. It gives you a sense not just of the country, but also the weather there, the temperature there. It's a hot day. So I think it works really well. I love this one. And finally, this one, again, very well seen. And again, I love the clothing that they're wearing in this with the reds, I guess you'd call it the turban, the wraparound, and the shoes that the one guy has taken off. I'm trying to ignore what seems to be horse manure in the foreground, but kind of adds to the shot, you know, that's where we are. And again, very well seen. And again, they give a very good sense of where in the world we might be. The background for me works fine. It could possibly be a stronger image if the photographer took a few steps to the right. So rather than having part of this metal gate, you just have this more interesting wall in the background. That might not be possible. For all I know, there's a street vendor standing on the right and you can't move that way. Or if you move that way, they would notice you, cover their faces, whatever. But it's not a huge problem. It's a nice angle anyway. And again, with the low camera, rather than looking down on them, which works really nicely. And I think they're great. They remind me a little bit of a shot that I have of a couple of guys just chilling out in the street. And I think they're wonderful. So yeah, what a great set of photos. And I enjoyed looking at them.
Okay, and can you give us your guess for who you think they're from?
Yeah, my very first thought was Sarah, but then the more I looked at them, the more I thought, I think this is India, and I think it's one of the Hornseys, and I'm going to go with Dave Hornsey. Oh, sorry, Janet. I was thinking, is it Janet? Is it Janet? But no, Dave likes walls and doorways, and there's lots of walls and doorways. That's why I went with Dave. Really good, Janet. I really like them.
Thank you.
I'm not good at doing the photographs of people, and I just thought I would try putting them in for this challenge and see what somebody thought. And luckily, I got you to critique them.
Yeah, I think you did a great job, and I know how difficult it can be trying to do that kind of street photography if you're not used to it and a bit intimidated. But I think you handled it really well.
Okay, thank you both, ladies. It was very interesting. And now it's time for Andy Funnell to unmute, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Let's go ahead.
Okay, right. So, woman on the beach. Yeah, I really like this image. The lady herself is beautifully and sharp and in focus. But a couple of things I would have done is I would have flipped the photo round the other way. Hopefully, you could show that in a minute, so that the subject is on the first third of the picture and not the second third. And then you also get the leading lines. There's some lines on the beach with the water line that's come up into the sand, and also where they looks like they've cleaned the beach. They also now running from left to right. So I personally find it a little bit more aesthetic like that, rather than the original way round. I also think that having the background in focus would have been better, but I'm not sure about that one without actually seeing it. The one thing I don't like about it is there seems to have been some sort of artificial brightening going on around the subject, which kind of goes into the sky and into the hills a bit, and a bit around the subject itself. It's like it's bright. I don't know whether that's been done or not, but it seems like it's been brightened up, but the brightening has gone of the subject has gone into the background and the sky. The next one. Yeah, I really like this one. The subject's good, the lighting's good. It's good that the dog is lit well from the back and from the front, because it's quite often that you take photos like this and the front of the image of the subject will come out really dark because the backlighting is high. So I really like that. I would have been better I think maybe if the camera had been further down, you would have got maybe a bit more interesting background, a bit more of the patio there, a bit more of the dog's face, and maybe the door would have framed the dog slightly more if it had been lower down. But again, I think it's a great picture. I really like it, and I love dogs, so it's a great picture. Next one. Yeah, this one I was a bit confused about, I have to say. I'm not really sure. Oh, what have I done on my screen? I'm not really sure what the subject is, whether it's the two people in the sea, or whether it's the beach, or whether there's some sort of light, sunlight reflecting off the clouds, or there's something going on with the lighting there. But I'm not really sure what the subject's supposed to be on this one. And I find that the umbrellas are a bit distracting, especially the bright colours on each side. So I probably would have taken those out, which I did in the hopefully in the next picture. It takes 5 seconds to take those out using generative fill in Photoshop, which is much easier to use than cloning these days. I don't know whether anybody thinks that that's better or not, but I also seems to be very quite saturated, the picture, especially in the sea area. But I'm not really sure about that one. Sorry. The next one. Yeah, I really like this image. It's nicely in focus. The background, when the shadow's slightly out of focus, but the focus brings your eyes onto the first urn, or whatever you would call it. I call it an urn, and I like the way the smoke comes into the picture. Again, I would have flipped this left to right, so that your eyes were drawn in from left to right with the smoke coming into the urn, and then your eyes being taken to the urn and then to the shadow in the background. I think that comes out better. And also I would have tried it in black and white as well, but I really like this image. I think the next picture is in black and white. Yeah, I don't know. They both work well. That's it, short and sweet. I really like that one. That's my favorite one of the four.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
And I've got no idea whose they are.
Pardon?
I have no idea who they might be.
Okay, I do. Never mind. Okay, thank you for your comment. And next up is Daniel, please.
Coming up, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm hearing you.
Okay, thanks. So this is a nice picture of sun who is going down under. When I see the first time the four pictures have the same problem. It was taken from a photographer who has a good eye, for landscapes, but for me the saturation and the colors aren't correct. So normally I would show you how to fix that in Photoshop, but I think everyone in the photo club will know it, because a sensor is always taking the blue on more blue than red and green. So if you're looking to the picture, it is too cold for me. When the sun is going down, it has to be warm. Yes, and that's the only point of view that I have on this picture. It is well done. I would crop it a little bit, but I give it more contrast. The photographer here wants to have also in the dark areas, he wants to have the structure, but in my opinion, it is better when the sun is going down, you have the contrast and the sea, and it must be warmer. Okay, thanks. Beautiful picture, nice reflection, but in this picture, I would crop the picture for a view, more of panoramic view. So you will have the first, but that is not, okay, good done, Frank. You see and here the same problem. There is the color cast is too blue. Yeah, warm it up, and it is on all, but the person who has taken this picture is a good landscape photographer. He is on the right moment, on the right place, with good light. Yeah, good picture. Here the same thing. You see the blue in the picture. It must be warmer, and the sharpness of the bird is, for my opinion, not so good. So there, the solution for me is always, if there is something that is must to be sharp, unsharp the other things. So in this case, I would give the color more warm. So in Photoshop, you put the yellows and the up and the blues down. And then the snake of the bird give it a little part of yellow and unsharp the sea, and it will be another picture. Next one, please. Here, beautiful picture again. Yeah, the whites in the snow for me, okay, but the crop the picture, there is too much of the sky, and warm it up also. The foreground is a little bit too dark for me, but on the other hand, yeah, for me, very nice picture. I thought there is in the right corner down, is there something that must be, you see there, I don't know, make it a little bit greater, Frank, if you can, down in the right corner. And you see there is a building or something of the road. You see the road there. Take that away in Photoshop and you have a fantastic picture. It's a postcard. So that was my favorite. Thank you. Very. I don't know. I don't know who have taken these pictures. I don't have any idea.
Okay, those were Brian Grinnell's.
Fine. Good done, man.
So
Good
thank
done.
you, Daniel. Thank you,
Well
Brian.
done.
Very interesting. Okay, now I'm gonna unmute myself. I haven't been unmuted, so it's easy. Oh, I can never guess who made these photos. Well, of course, I know who took what photos because I had to prepare the presentation. I think this is an amazing photo because it's a document of the times. It's Japan. You see two Japanese girls walking across a little bridge against the traditional Japanese background, except there's air conditionings, there is a bucket, there is a light. So that makes it for me very interesting. It's a very good choice of not blurring out the background. So you've got this amazing combination of seeing the Japanese girls still dressed traditionally, walking, laughing. So that goes back to the traditional paintings and pen drawings we know, but put in this time. So that makes it very, very interesting. And it's sharp and crisp enough for me to make it beautiful. And an interesting choice to make it in black and white, because I think the colors might have been quite distracting here. And we're back in Japan, but in an entirely different place here. Well, we know that this photographer is very well trained in street photography, and whether it's a street like we just saw before or now, she knows how to pick it out and how to take an interesting angle, include elements that add to the story. I wouldn't call it story because I don't really like a story in a photograph. A photograph is a still, but you give elements to give a context, to let your imagination run around. And this central figure is very, very captivating because he looks really tough, and yet he doesn't look tough like someone in the West would be. His expression is very great. You have the mouth caps, you have lots of interesting details. So that's about what I can say for this photo. And then when we see also street food and a little hint of smoke, we're 100% sure where we are. But well, this is once again, it proves that, well, I'm going to say that Rachel has been training on things like this. You've got a perfect composition with the people making their heads, making a leading line to a point in the background, which is more or less on a golden ratio, a third. The food does the same thing. The lamps hanging from the ceiling too. And so you got here two very interesting faces. I hope you can see the cursor that actually make the photo, and yet you got a lot more information in it without it becoming an overcrowded, overbusy photo, which I think is just fantastic to do. And there's in all the photos, there's an amazing atmosphere. You wish you were there to participate, you know, just great photos. And here we got the guy looking at us with the interesting, bizarre foods from our point of view in front of him. And this photo, I get the idea that you wanted to do 4 black and whites, but here I'm actually really, really curious to see what colors these foods are. But, well, thank you, Rachel, for the amazing photos. And next up to do a critique is Dave Roundtree. So please, Dave, unmute and give us your opinion on the photos you've been sent.
Right. This will be a very basic critique. At first, when I opened the pictures on the iPhone, it was very, very dark. On the iPad, it's brightened up, and I like the picture. It's a bit cockeyed to me on the bottom. It would have been better, a bit straighter. And the thing that takes my eye is 2 little legs in the middle where you get in the group of people. I'd have took the 2 legs off, the 2 people off, and the lady off. So he's concentrated more in the middle of the window in the window. And that's really all I can say about that. But the sharpness is very good on the window. Next. I love this photograph. I love the reflections. I wouldn't have done anything. I wouldn't have cropped it. I wouldn't have done anything. The only thing I would like to know is on the reflection under the right sun hammock on the flowers, it's like a white, it's sort of whitish, and it's nowhere else on the photograph. I just don't know what it is. If everybody can see it, if you can zoom in, Frank, yeah, there. I just don't know why that's happened. It just looks a bit odd. Yeah, but I haven't done anywhere else. But I love it. I love the colours and the lines and everything. And the 5 arches, everything. Yeah, I love that photograph. Next. This is a fantastic photograph. I love the lines, the reflections, the colours in the stone, but I don't like the man in the fire. I took the man on the fire off. And I also took the grey wall out as well. I just cropped it in a little bit and got rid of the grey wall. Just had everything nice and brown. But the light's beautiful on that. Not as much as that, Frank. Just I've got the end of the wall in. Yeah. Well, a bit more, but then I'd have took the man out as well. But I love the colour. Yeah, that's all I can say about that. It's a fantastic photograph. This one, I like it, but I took the sun out and I took the other pigeon out at the bottom. I narrowed it down. Yeah, that's it. And I moved the pigeon over to the right a little bit more. If you can do that, Frank.
No, I can't.
Okay.
This is.
Well, I love the light on the pigeon. Maybe I'd have tried to get them not as sharp as they are, the boats, and get the pigeon a bit sharper in a photograph. Maybe not as. I wouldn't have chopped it as much as that, Frank.
Yeah, but I can only do what's possible on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's in a well spotted photograph. And yeah, more I look at it, more I think, should I leave the sun in? But I don't know. Yeah, but the other pigeon just draws me out of the other pigeon for some reason. But I like it.
Okay, I think this was the fourth photograph.
Well, when I looked at the information on the photographs, it's one of them said Janet Hornsborough, but she's already gone. So it must be Dave. Yeah.
That's true. Okay, those were Dave Hornty's photo. Thank you, Dave, and thank you for the comment. So the next person to do critique is Kathy.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I hope everyone else can.
Excellent. So
ready?
yes. So
Here
the
we
next 4 photos you'll see are quite closely cropped. They're not a huge file size, so some of the detail may be lost, but I don't think that detracts in the slightest bit from these photos. But I will comment on those afterwards. So the first photo is a herring gull, I believe. And the letterbox crop works really, really well. I think this blue background, a bright, vivid blue, really highlights the bird in flight. I wondered whether I would have included a bit more of the background, and then thought no, because this bird has the most wonderfully malevolent look in its eye. And with the eye and the beak shaped, and it looks like it's looking straight through you. And I thought, oh, that's wonderful. You can really see straight into his thoughts almost when he's looking at you like this. You can see the glint in the eye. If you zoom right in, you'll see there's not quite the detail, and I would have probably brought up more detail in that eye to bring it out a bit more. But I think that's also due to the file size. So I would have. Yeah, I would have worked the eye and maybe the beak colour a little bit, but so that it looks natural. What I particularly like in this photo as well, I absolutely love the lines. It's just such a fantastic shot. It's almost as if the seagull has posed there and said, right, just stop there because you've got the wonderful triangles of the wings. And then it's just lovely clean lines that then you can see under the wings, and there's this lovely soft almost shadow of a feather which you can pick out, which almost it sort of makes the picture almost softer in some ways, almost like an angel's wings. You pick out more details as you look at this photo. Very nice, thank you. Right, the second photo, and we had another almond blossom photograph, but it was more of the trees. And of course, I've always looked at almond blossom trees and thought, how on earth can I take photos of almond blossom? But I thought this is a lovely way to do that because the photographers really picked out the flowers nicely. I like the composition, with the branch going from the bottom left to the top right, and also the branch in the back, which also follow the same line, so it doesn't seem to detract too much. Some people might have thrown that out, but I like it. I like the crop; it's nearly square, but I'm a little bit distracted by the vignette because. Vignetting, I always find, is very effective if it draws your eye into the center of the photograph and makes you concentrate on what you're looking at. In this case, I think you actually notice the vignette a little bit too much. Some vignette, yes, maybe not quite as much as on this photo. However, I love the colours. I think the pink and the white. The whites might be a tiny bit blown out in some areas, but they really are very very vibrant, and with the blurred background as well. For the background, I was wondering if I would have changed my position. I don't know if it would have been possible with the composition to have included more of the either have a green background or totally angle the camera the other way to have a completely blue background looking up with the white flowers and pink on the blue background. But your attention really is drawn into the details of these lovely flowers. The next photo. I did have to check what this was. I thought it's a peony. It's a peony, but I did double check. Yes, apparently it is a peony. And what an absolutely stunning flower. Beautiful, strong colours. I absolutely love the deep background with the beautiful, strong pinks and then the yellow stamens that have become petals in the middle. And then also you've got the reminder of the pink in the centre. So I thought that was a beautifully seen, absolutely stunning. Here you've got the vignette, which really does concentrate your eyes on the centre of the photo. Again, it's quite a strong vignette. In this photo, it doesn't bother me quite as much because the dark green is so dark that it doesn't detract, I don't think, from the beauty of the flower. That's what you're seeing. I like the crop. The only thing I would say is it's slightly top heavy. And there was something bothering me, so I actually got my ruler out and thought, oh yeah, it is. There is more space at the top than the bottom. There is more of the photo on the right-hand side as well, but that doesn't matter as much because you've got this little leaf and petal sticking out, so that wasn't as much of a problem. But otherwise, I mean, I love the crop. You concentrate really on this beautiful, beautiful flower. In terms of focusing, I think you can see that the focus is more on the left-hand side of the flower. As it's a square crop, I would have, and I don't mind the blur, but I would have preferred to have had the main focus right in the centre, and then rather than the outside of the left-hand side. But if not, I absolutely love the colours. I think it's very, very bright and vibrant photograph of a beautiful flower. And then the next one. Thank you. This I believe it's a kittiwake. You correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not very up on my seabirds, but the fact it had black legs did intrigue me. I love this photo because you often see birds in flight. You don't often see photographs of birds with both eyes. And this is very unusual. And this bird is just looking straight at you. I think that's absolutely stunning. I like the composition very, very much because you've got triangles in the shape of the bird already. Then also there's a kind of a triangle between the black sections of the bird, so the eyes and beak, then the tail feathers, and then the legs. And then also, of course, in the face. Well, the face is wonderfully symmetrical. It's looking at you again. You're not quite sure if it's laughing or if it's evil in some way. It looks a bit like the Joker. It looks like it knows something perhaps you don't know. I think it's fantastically well seen. And then the colour in the background, it's very different to the first gull photo, where the first one you had this very bright blue background, and this one is a soft blue, which I think works really, really well with this photograph because it's also, you don't know, you think it might be the sea, but it could be the sky. And then you've got this wonderful rooting of the bird on with its straight black legs on the concrete, which I think is fabulous. And then you've got the softness in the feathers, which sort of almost is a reminder of the background. So I love that. I think it's a fantastic big picture, really well seen. Thank you. Well done.
Okay, any idea whose photos they might be?
No idea, I'm sorry.
Okay, they were Gary Spicer's.
Well done, Gary.
Gary and Kathy both. And the next person to unmute is Jean, please.
Can you hear me? I think I might be unmuted. Yeah?
You are unmuted.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Thank you, Jean.
Right. Well, the photographer, I think, has captured the different elements of Islamic geometric art particularly well here. It's a photo about intricate patterns and details, and you see it on the floors, the contrast between the black and white floor and then the more intricate design on the floor next to it is very effective. Lovely warm browns and ochres, and I think the shapes and the symmetry give the photo quite a lot of depth. These are very, very strong pillars. And what I particularly like about this photograph is where the photographer was standing, because you could probably have taken about 6 different photographs here. But this person chose to show us quite a few elements of the Islamic art, all these different designs. And I think the door, where the focus on the third as you come in on the door on the right hand side is a particularly good place to stand. So I like the crop, and I like the way my eye travels along the photograph. And I even like the leaves at the top, actually, because they add another contrast, and it shows, it gives you an idea of where the photograph was taken. And I could spend quite a lot of time looking at this photograph. So that's that one. Thank you. I think the first photograph, to me, it was probably taken somewhere like Morocco, because in fact, I've seen that particular design on that first photograph, would you believe, not long ago in Granada, exactly the same patterns. But I think this is probably the same place, but it's in a big contrast to the effect, the affluence of the first one. This is somewhere where the ordinary people live, and it's not a palace or a temple, and you can see from the photograph that it's not in good repair at all. Bits are falling off the walls, and there's cracked paint work, and everywhere looks old and worn. There's some litter on the floor, and the studied ancient doorways look, actually, you can see them towards the back of on the middle back. They look as if there might be entrances to people's dwellings behind there. I'm intrigued to know what this lady is doing. I think she's returning somewhere. If you really blow it up, you can see that she's got some keys in her hand. They're rather modern looking keys for those old doors. You see she's got some ordinary keys. In those old doors, you'd expect very fancy locks on them, but maybe they've just produced new locks for the people, and I'd like to know what's behind them. The only thing is, it's not terribly well in focus, the face in particular. I would have liked more detail in this photograph. The back at the top is a bit blown out, and I would have liked to have either a complete silhouette, or I would have liked to have seen a bit more about the expression on her face, and was she pleased to be returning home? And I think it's very difficult. I've never managed to take photographs in alleyways like this terribly well, where the background is much brighter than the darkness in the alleyway. And I know there are ways of doing it, and somebody will have to tell me what to do, because I've never succeeded very well either. I think the lack of detail is due to the fact that this was taken with an iPhone, and when it's blown up, you can't see any detail. That was my main problem with it. Okay, thank you. The next one. Well, similar thing about the detail. I don't know if it works better in black and white, because in this one it's almost more of a silhouette. The background is really light, so you can't see any detail in the man who is walking home or walking through this alleyway. I think it's the same place as the one before. Personally, I preferred the colour, but again, I'd like to have seen more detail on the walls and I think on the floor as well, because I think in the past that floor was probably very intricate, and now it's so worn that all the pattern, if there was any, is gone. But it's again the way you manage your camera settings, and of course, if it's an iPhone, the iPhone does it for you. So that would be. I like the mysterious feel of it, and I suppose the black and white adds a bit more to the mystery. Okay, thanks. And finally, yeah, black and white. Again, I think it probably works here for an old, very old door. I think this is one of the doorways that lady was perhaps going to go to and to unlock. What intrigues me about this photograph is I particularly want to go inside. If I'd been there, actually, because I'm a bit cheeky, I would have been desperate to have stuck my head into that black hole there to see what was behind. And in fact, to see, it looks as if it's going to be really ramshackle inside and full of goodness knows what. And I wanted to know what that goodness knows what is in there. So it's got that air of mystery. It's also this pipe that comes at the bottom. What's that for? Is it producing some facility? Is it water? Is it? I don't know what it's for, but I'd like to know. And if I could follow it through inside, then that would have been interesting. If you blow it up again, lacks detail with the. I would have liked to have seen more contrast in this actually, but you can see if you blow it up, those textures, if you put them into somewhere like Photoshop or Lightroom, you could really have done something to enhance the textures and brought out the antiqueness of this door. It looks to me to be incredibly old. And on the floor, there was obviously at some stage some intricate patterns, just the pipes going through, and you can just see some. This has been a very different use for this building, and it probably did look much better than it does now. But anyway, it's lovely to see 4 photographs like that, and well done, and a bit more contrast. I just think that iPhone photographs, I know that Alf won't agree with, but you often miss, or you can't enhance the detail like the textures that you can do when you've got more control over your own camera settings. So well done, thank you. I enjoyed looking at them. Thanks. I think those are Sarah's. They are. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to let you have a guess. I'm sorry. But it's because we're almost at the end. One but last person to do the critique is Mylene. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Aha, off we go.
Okay. I got a set of pictures and I remember seeing kinds of these pictures before on my iPhone, on my smartphone, in Facebook accounts. It's a very strong picture. The subject is really in the center of the picture. It's about a square. Diagonals are always adding strength to the picture. So here also the branches on which the 2 dragonflies are doing their job, I guess. there is a very much contrast between the background and the subject, which isolates the subject as in a very, very good manner. The colors of the background are muted and soft, and the colors of the subject are vivid and very, very sharp. So it's yeah, the contrast between the animal skin, the insect skins, the texture of the branch and the background are enormous. So I like this picture very, very much. It's a nature picture. It could be for a challenge about insects or wildlife or whatever. Also, depth of field could be the subject of the picture. Okay, next one. This is also a picture of a nature subject. It's a bird. It looks very, very simple, but if you take a closer look, you see so many details that the simplicity is deceiving. The bird is the subject, and he is at the exact right spot on 1/3 from the right hand edge, 2/3 from the left hand edge. He's looking inside the picture, so he has space enough, room enough to look around. And behind again, the subject is isolated from the background by a big change in depth of field. And you have a beautiful light area around the bird. And whether that was a very lucky spot or you post-operated the picture and you darkened the left-hand side so that the light signs the bird even more definite than whatever. Yeah, to me it's a perfect picture of a bird. I can't say anything more about it. You see the brightness in the eye? It's very, very sharp. The feathers are yeah, you can't draw them that sharp. Very, very.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah. Excuse me.
It was obvious. It was a giveaway.
We spoiled.
No, you didn't spoil. It's a black and white picture. It's totally different from the pictures before. The black and white picture. It's a landscape. We see a beautiful slope with curves that leads the eye through the picture. We see many different structures. You see the structure of the sand. You see the vegetation in the background. You see the leaves on the tree, the branches, and all different structures. Even the sky is structured. I think you took a polarization filter to darken the sky, or in combination with post-operating post-processing to darken the sky and to get the contrasts of the clouds and the blue parts out of it. It's a little bit a dramatic picture, so it's there is a little emotion in the landscape. It's not a flat landscape. The size is also, it's upwards, not not a landscape. So I like it very much, although it's a little bit busier than the pictures before. The tree is well positioned at 1/3 about. Also, it's very, very obvious that the tree and the landscape are the subject of this picture. And the last one. The last one is totally different, and it was the only one who made me doubt about the author a little bit, because I know the rest of the pictures more than this kind of picture. It's a black and white photo, and it's a staircase outside, and our eye is taken on a walk from the left bottom to the left up in a beautiful curve. So you walk with your eye through the light. Walking through the light is always very easy, always very amusing. You have a very good use of striking light. So the rays of the sunlight are almost in the same plane of the walls. So the structure of the walls and the texture of the walls comes beautifully comes out. You have much detail, and the cat, it's a natural element. It could be put there, or I think cats are not so difficult to take pictures of. They sometimes sit hours at the same spot. So it's all well positioned. The shades of the staircase, the shades in the door, the details. It's a very, very sharp picture. I thank you very much, Emilio.
Okay, I think that the first two did give it away. Thank you, Emilio. Thank you, Marlene. And we're up to the last person to do a critique, and that's Alfred. So Alfred, please unmute. Alfred, can you hear us? I'm going to check if Alfred's... I'm not sure if Alfred's there. Okay, I will go to the photos, through the photos, without comment then, because I can't see or hear if Alfred is there. And those were Trevor's. Okay, I will see if I can stop sharing. Yes. Okay, thank you all very much for participating.
Alf is there. He sat in the armchair, shaking.
Hi, Alfred. I think.
I don't think he can. I don't think he can talk. I don't think he can speak anything. I don't think he can be heard because he's definitely there.
Yes, he's there, but he probably.
I don't think he can hear her.
Could you find out? Do you want? Can you hear us? So that's not working, apparently.
Alfred, can you not hear us and not see us? You look pretty angry. Okay, no, there's obviously no response there.
Okay, I think that we can close this secret photo critique down. I think it was interesting to have several people talk about different photos. I hope it was fun for you all to get these photos anonymously. So any reaction on what you thought about how it went, how you felt about how it was to get these photos, etc., etc. Don't hesitate to share it on either the Facebook page or send it to images or info at the photo club, so that we got an idea whether to do it again, and if we do it again, what we need to change or whatever. I thought it was quite interesting, and well, I I hope to see all of you in 2 weeks, I think, for the next regular challenge.
Can I just say, I thought it was great, and big thank you to Frank and to Trevor for putting so much work into organising it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Excellent.
Thank you.
Committee members, I don't think that went on for a long time. That was for 2 hours, yeah. So I don't think we have time to talk now, and as we planned, yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Anyway, I lost the sound for many times. My connection is losing many times. Sorry.
Well, I think we should leave it for another day, for Tuesday or something. I can't do it tomorrow.
I can't do it at all next week. I'm sorry. I told you that. But you can have it without me. That's fine. But I can't be there.
What about going for the week after?
Yes, so we could think of a date the week after.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll sort a date out with email, and we'll do it on Zoom. Yeah. Does that cover your time thing, Jean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in time for, when did we have it planned for the meeting? No?
Well, we were going to have it today, but Janet and Dave are going away, of course, so they won't be part of it after the 10th of May. So we need to have it before then.
Can we sort this out between the committee members offline?
Yeah.
Because it's not of interest to the remaining members.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to make a couple of comments generally that came to mind out of the entire presentation today, if I may. Is that okay, Rod?
Yeah, sure.
Right. I think it was a comment that was made, particularly by Brian, which I just wanted to pick up on. A number of people have made comments about being able to do something in post-processing, and a lot of the comments, it relates really to the time of capture. And as Brian said, with the picture of that nice building in southern France, it'd have been a lot better to have put the telephoto lens on in the first place rather than crop it. And I think rather than cropping images, I think we need to think at the time we take the picture as to what is the right viewpoint, what is the right lens to have on it, rather than just snap what's in front of us and then try and think about cropping it later. Because you're throwing away half, maybe sometimes more than half, of the data that is on your sensor if you do any cropping post-processing. Also, I think it was mentioned, I think, by Gary about sharpening. Once you've lost data because you haven't got a sharp image at capture, you can never get it back. No matter what post-processing you do, you cannot recover data that isn't there. There are tools out there which will reduce the amount of blur, which isn't the same as recovering detail. So just because you have lost detail because of blur, you won't get it back. It's much, much better to concentrate on getting the right aperture at the time of taking to give you the focus where you need to have the focus. And one other point that I think Daniel referred to, and a few others, Daniel talked about colours of images. We've had a couple of comments along the lines of it looked different on my iPad than it did on my iPhone, or it looks different on my laptop than it does on my phone, or whatever. You can't calibrate the screen of an iPhone. You can't calibrate the screen of an iPad. The only screens that can be color calibrated are proper monitors. And if you haven't got a color calibrated screen, you could easily be misled by contrast, by color, by saturation. Those factors, certainly the makers of the iPads, iPhones, Android phones, or whatever, they want to produce a bright image that is popular and will sell to people up and down the high street. Photographers, we need to get our colors right. And the best and really only assured way of making sure your contrast is right, your color is right, is to use a color calibrated screen. And I think a number of the comments today have highlighted that particular problem.
I think that the basis of all that is that you should know your camera. You should study photography. You should know all the elements that you're using. You should know the depth of field and you should know apertures and speeds, and then you know the lenses and what lens you should use. That's all basic photographic knowledge. Yeah. And unfortunately these days, although I have to say that I've seen some great stuff on phones, taken on phones, yeah. But the total knowledge of a photographer should be enormous. Should be, right, Daniel? Should be much greater than it is. That's what we're trying to do in the club. Yeah, give knowledge.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was interesting, and it means that we'll have to do more on Photoshop and Lightroom and
yes,
all the elements that help you.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay then. Thank you very much. That was interesting, very interesting. Yeah, goodbye. And Alf, I don't know why you're looking so angry, but thanks anyway.
Thanks to everybody that contributed to this event. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing.
And it was Frank's idea.
Great, thank you. Bye.
See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Frank. Bye.